Good day to everybody there in TV land. This is Mike Hittner with Historic Point Boss Update. And to my right, Jim Nickel. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here. It's kind of odd because usually I'm on the other side of that camera. So
Jim and his wife Diane are usually behind the camera, and today, of course, Jim is here, so Diane is behind the camera. And so we like to thank them for all their filming they do and the different video work and editing and everything to get this out to the public, because it starts like iceberg, but it ends up, well, bigger than ice cube, but it's smaller.
yeah, this is a great learning experience, on what to do and how to do it and everything. It's very interesting.
And we're thankful for the River City's community access, the availability to us. We're not a city function or anything, so we have to do our own kind of videotaping and editing and that sort of thing, get it ready as a finished product. But we're thankful we get to use the studio and promote our project down at Historic Point Boss. So this morning we're going to talk about probably 3 or 4 things, and then sometimes we go parallel directions and that sort of thing. But Jim, Point Boss Pioneer Festival just got over. We're just recording this the Tuesday after the 9th and 10th of June, which was our festival. It was really nice because we had a little bit of threatening weather, but never any rain, never any storms. And the previous year we had that big storm projected to come in on Sunday afternoon. So it was a complete show this year, as we say. And what was your take on it? You got around a little bit. I know you spent most of your time in the woodworking shop and everything, and that's your purview there most of the time.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the 3-bay shed, Mike.
And I was
a couple times though.
And I was really interested because early in the day you had that Girl Scout troop that was there, and those Girl Scouts, I was in and out, but they must have been there probably an hour from start to finish almost.
They spent an awful lot of time. I was rather amazed that a group of girls were so interested in the woodworking part of it and everything, and the lumber part. And
did you show them just about every aspect? I know you had them sitting down and they were using the draw shave on the horse there and everything.
We gave them a molding plane this time, and they got a chance to put a round bead on the edge of a board.
Wow.
And so it's a little difficult because it's a pressure thing. If you press too hard, it doesn't push well and everything. So you got to have a nice light touch. And they eventually got a hold of it, and they enjoyed doing that. And they always enjoy using a spoke shave or on a shaving horse. They always enjoy that. But they spent an awful lot of time there.
And I know they went with you also over into the Sawyer's Bay, and you showed them different things in the Sawyer's Bay there that they were interested in. And
and this year we even did a little show and tell on how they built log cabins, how they got the nice flat edge on a log. Don did it for a little while, and I did for a little while. How we used the broad axe to nick up the edge and then shave off that nick, and you have a sort of a flat edge,
flat surface,
stack their boards, and girls were amazed by that too. And they had a chance to hold the broad axe. And it doesn't look very heavy, but they picked it up and it was like, oh, this thing's really heavy. It says, imagine swinging that all day.
And these were girls, what would you think, 10, 12?
In that 12 area.
12 age. So they're not even probably half grown. So probably weighing somewhere in that 50, 60 pound range. So when you're holding probably a 4 or 5 pound broad axe, that gets pretty heavy after a while.
Yeah, I think the broad axe probably goes a little bit more than that.
Does it?
Yeah, it's kind of heavy.
Because part of the secret of a broad axe, of course, is the weight does a lot of the work.
It's the weight. Weight does a lot of it. You just got to get it up and let it slam in there, and does a good job.
Yeah, and then I saw they went over in the 3-bay shed. We also made ice cream, and Ted Orgish and Don Matthews and John Matthews were pretty much in charge of it. And we did have some volunteers from, I think, from Wittenberg 4-H on Sunday that helped with it. But they even went over there and took a turn at turning the crank and making a batch of ice cream, and it was kind of nice. And I was amazed too in those girls, because I saw them like at 10 o'clock when they were over by you, or 10:30 was really early. And at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they were still going around from place to place. They really got immersed in the whole a whole Point Bass Pioneer Festival, everything that was there.
Yes, they did. Yeah, and then Sunday we even had a different Girl Scout group come in and help with the ice cream.
Ah, wonderful,
So
wonderful.
that was nice too. And during a little lull time, then they would get a little tour of the 3-bay shed, and they were impressed with that.
Yeah.
And they did get a chance to talk to Eugene, the shoe shine.
Yes,
So,
and hopefully they brought shoes to shine, because the tendency is for most of our young people that they're either in sandals or they're in tennis shoes or sneakers or something like that, and there is not much to shine there.
yeah, it's kind of hard to shine there. All best you can do is shine up the little toenails on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I thought it went really well. I had an opportunity. I was out working with Leah Brost, who was the kind of the potter on Saturday, had made about 15 bowls to sell for the cooking contest, and we had 6 entrants in the cooking contest from the different campsites, and I always tell Tom he's at a disadvantage, because there was, out of the 6 entrants, there was 4 desserts, and I said, Tom, if you're making a main course, you're up against the uphill battle there with a dessert, because people remembered the dessert.
desserts are always good. You know?
Yes.
They always say life is short, eat dessert first.
Right. And so the cooking contest went well, but I was working with over at the warehouse with with Leah Brost and kind of helping her get started and everything. And she's a new volunteer from Nakusa, came through Lori Tempest, her teacher, art teacher at Nakusa High School, and she was, throwing bowls there and everything. And of course, we don't fire at the site, but she was making the bowls and showing people. And it's on a kick wheel. So, folks, if you've ever used a pottery wheel, most of them, of course, are electric, and it's hard enough as it is. But when you got a kick, you got to keep a certain momentum going to keep that revolution, especially when you're first starting out, to keep that bowl centered or whatever you're making. So she was showing that, and quite a bit of interest. I think the synergy there was the canoe rides. The people waiting for the canoe rides were right by the warehouse, so we had like a built-in audience. So they're kind of they were kind of waiting there, and then all of a sudden they saw this, and and we got a kind of a small low opening for the warehouse, and they're looking in there, and here's this young lady throwing bowls and everything. So we got a little conversation going about that and about the cooking contest, and it was nice too, because we actually sold out by, I think, about, the cooking contest starts at 12 o'clock, and then the judging starts about 4. And about 3:15 we sold out. One woman, in fact, bought 6 bowls, because she got one for her and her husband, and they had 4 children, so each got a bowl. And they came to the contest itself, and we had a new winner this year. We've had some people that have won it multiple times. Gene Pearson has won it twice, 215 and 217, but this is Carol Schwala, and she baked an apple pie, and that was the winning one. But it was really close. Tom was a close second, and he had a kind of a stew, a beef stew or something like that, with carrots and onions and the meat and everything, the nice gravy and everything. And but he was close second on it. So.
I hear that the top 3 finishers were really very close.
Within 8 points. All 3 of them.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
And the pottery wheel thing, that was kind of interesting, because while the people are waiting to go on that canoe ride, usually you just stand around, you can just look around the grounds and everything. That worked out really nice with that.
And that canoe area is a little isolated from some of the other areas, because it's close to the river. They go down the riverbank, and the nice part about it is with the pottery thing there, and then Dana Rice came on Sunday. She trimmed up some of the bowls, because they weren't dry enough for Leah to trim on Saturday, so she trimmed up some and everything, and she was only there like an hour and a half or something. But she's our normal potter, but she had a commitment in Stevens Point for a statewide thing that she heads up for arts and everything like that. But when I was there, I heard Glenn, who has the large canoe there that gives the canoe rides, and I heard him talking, and he's in TV land. Just want to let you know we had a little blip in here, because we had a power outage for about 10 minutes. So if you notice a little something in the middle here, or after the first 10 minutes, it's because of that. And we were speaking about Glenn, the gentleman with the big canoe that gives the canoe rides at the site, and it was interesting, Jim, when he's got a whole production in where he goes with the people all have to pick a paddle that works for them, and then they go Northwest Company, hey, and Hudson Bay, boo, it's kind of the French versus the English sort of thing, and he's got a whole spiel with that. And the interesting thing is I heard that a couple times, this year and some other years, but I didn't hear this thing when he comes back, because he gets them all in a circle. And he talks about Native people and how they revered the land and they were part one with the land. They weren't superior to it or anything. And he takes out a little tobacco and he gives a little bit to everybody. And then they put it into the center of there and they make a wish out loud. And then they say something like wahoo or something, an acknowledgement. So it was quite a production, and I didn't realize all the time you hear canoe rides, but it's a production beforehand. He's got a little spiel, and it's afterwards, and so it was delightful to hear that. One of the other things that I thought was interesting, I was back in the back circle where most of the campers are, Jim, and Dave Gilbertson was back there, and he was working on a fishing net. He was weaving a fishing net for a landing net. He had a stick that he had on a handle there, but like we would use for if you're trying to land a fish or something. He was making all this out of like twine of some sort, and he was weaving it all together like you would weave a macrame wall hanging or something like that. And it was quite interesting to see that. And then when he went over to Pete and Annette Shimmings, they were in the corner over there. And Pete makes a rope, and you might have seen some of those ropes coming around because
Kids were carrying ropes all over the place.
He lets them pick a piece of yarn that they weave into the rope, so they get they have a blue one, they could have a yellow one or a green one or something. And what's nice about it, Pete makes them long enough to, I know, like the Girl Scout age, you could use it for a jump rope.
Yeah,
it was long enough.
They were about 5 feet long.
Yeah, which was nice. So that's kind of some of the things as you went around the site. And then, of course, back at the schoolhouse, they were getting a schoolhouse tour. We had something new there, and I think that I'll talk to you and Diane, but we had Bonnie Wolfslagel did a production for us, was an introductory to the site. Now, we've always been lacking that, and you've had people come to the three-bay shed, I'm sure, and wondering, what's this place all about? Somebody from the outside that doesn't have any background. And this is just taking the Wakeleys from upstate New York all the way through their process to get here, and then tells a little bit about what they did here, and it goes in a picture inside and outside of each building and tells what the purpose of that building was. It's about 10 minutes long. I think we'll maybe get a copy of it. We can put it on one of these videos, because I think it'd be nice for people, a little background, a little history, and that's why Bonnie produced it. Tom and I and Mary Ann kind of worked on it, but Bonnie really put it together, and her brother-in-law helped her with it. But it's on a reel-to-reel, so it just keeps running time after time. So if you ever come back and you kind of wonder, well, what's Wakeley all about, and you don't understand it totally, that little 10-minute video right in the entrance to the school will give you a good background on it. So I think it's a nice addition. The school marm was busy. I saw Doreen there, and Kim Marshall was there giving lots of tours. The garden gals were outside. They had a little table set up, and they had a project for the kids. I think they had a whole bunch of banks they were making. The kids could make the cover for it. And they had banks, and then they were labeling all their flowers, because you and Diane are master gardeners, but a lot of these people come there and they wonder, what is that, Gilardia, or what is this stuff,
Yeah,
and
it's kind of nice to know what it is.
So they had a little label machine. They were putting labels on all the things they got in the gardens. Of course, most of us know hostas and a few of those sort of things, but a lot of the other stuff is, in the butterfly garden is a kind of specialized plants and everything. Yeah. So
I did see a lot of kids running around with the banks.
Yeah,
I was wondering where they had gotten them from.
Yeah, just a little like a tomato can, a small, 8 or 10 ounce can with a hole punched in the top, put the money in. Now, I think it's a real safe one for all the families out there, because you almost got to cut them open to get the money out. You can't. I as a kid, and maybe you too, you tried. Remember, you had a little bank and you tried to shake it out, and of course
then there was. And you eventually figured out that you could put a knife in, a butter knife in there, and then kind of try to get the cans, bounce the can to get the coins on there and slide them out. It took forever though.
And it was nice in the house for a number of us on the site. We got nice breakfast and lunch served there, which was cooked on the stove, and so
the ladies did a good job on the breakfast.
Well, yeah, that produced so much, and then of course they plan for 6 or 7 or 8 or whoever amount of people are coming, and then if not that many come, I know it from breakfast on Sunday anyway. They looked like there could have been some left. I don't know.
Oh no, there was nothing left, because what we did is we went out and talked to some of the vendors, that hadn't had a chance to eat, or didn't have anything yet and everything. We told them, the ladies have leftovers, if you'd like some. And they came in. Glenn came in for a dinner, and he came in for a breakfast. So
okay.
He was eating summer sausage.
Yeah.
And told him, you got scrambled eggs, diced ham, cheese.
A little variety to his menu.
Better than that summer sausage. And he says, I can't pass that up. And he came in and ate too. Eugene came in and ate with us. Yeah.
And we had a nice addition this year with Brooke in the backyard of the house, who made soap. Now, she does this professionally, and she sells her soaps, and she does a nice job. We had tried it a few years previously, and there was always something with setup or something that just didn't get it quite right. But she's done this, so she was having a little problem on Saturday, and she came into the house, got some salt, and that helped it to set. But we thank Brooke and her family for coming out and helping and showing us how to make soap and everything. I know a lot of people stop by there, and she also had some of her soaps for sale there. She made some for us for our own use in our different buildings, but that was interesting too.
When we tried it, I think it was 2 years ago we tried it, and we make good liquid soap, so we make, good liquid hand soap.
Yeah, it just never hardened. If you wanted bar soap, it ain't going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
You got to get one of those pumps, folks.
Yeah, you have to get a pump to put ours in through.
So that was good, and I heard lots of what you hear almost around the site as gunshots, but folks, it wasn't gunshots, it was the whip demonstration. Whip was in the front yard, and every once in a while you hear this whack, and it sounds almost like a 22 or something like that. And
that is the sound of the whip breaking the sound barrier.
Yeah.
So that whip right out at the end is going a little over 700 miles an hour.
Is that something?
And that's what you get the crack from.
And they've got I think one of the whips that they were using the most must have been 15, 18, 20 feet long.
Yep.
And you can imagine the pressure it takes on your arm and shoulder to get that thing out there and moving in rotation and everything at enough RPMs that you can cause that.
I think we may even have a little video clip that we may be able to have at the end of the show that will show him going through that process.
He probably explained it as he went through it.
He was
in the middle of it.
Talk, He doesn't talk too much when he's out there busy with it, and make sure he's doing it right.
All I heard one time, he kind of rolls it and he calls it walking his dog.
Another interesting thing that was out there and new this year was the Tia 2.
Yes. They haven't, Joni and Tom Wolf haven't been there for a couple of years because of family engagements and whatever sort of thing. And I think a couple of our members went out there. I know my wife did on Saturday. And it's kind of like a British, I think she plays a southern belle or something.
Yeah, she has a good southern accent in there.
But they have nice little china teacups, and of course you have to have a saucer underneath. That's very proper. You just can't be drinking tea without a saucer. And then she goes through the varieties. Usually she has about 3 varieties of tea that she hands out, and people get it to try it out and everything like that. But we thank the Wolves for coming, and it's a kind of a nice thing where it's at 2 o'clock, of course, as the name implies, but you can kind of sit back and relax. Maybe you've been touring around and now you're resting a little bit. And another new one this year was just down from Tea for Two was Sean Sullivan, who's up from the Wausau area, and he was playing kind of a primitive, somebody from about 15,000 years ago, from the Ice Age, because he had all these handmade spearheads and arrows and everything, and he was showing how to, fire start and everything, but he's showing back almost during the Ice Age time.
I saw him, he had like a little fur, wearing fur.
Like a vest sort of thing. And
right,
And so he's kind of new. Now, we normally portray 1840 to 1860, but at the festival we got people portraying different eras because this, Ice Age man, more or less, he precedes us, and he was interesting because he said, And I didn't get the third thing. He says 3 things that we use today basically came out of that time, and it was fire, and it was cordage, you know, ropes and all that sort of thing. And one other thing, and I had it, but I lost it or something. But 3 things came out of that era that we actually use today and has multiplied, and of course, many more uses for it in this day and age.
Yeah, they did a great contribution for what we do now. You know,
Yes.
And when you look back even on woodworking tools and things like that, some of the tools that were made then are still being made now and still being used now by everyone.
And I suppose the biggest thing in woodworking, as you know from working in the woodworking shop, is probably automation. The rest of it, the hand tools, well, how much can you change the hand tools?
Right, you know, they still make some of the old combination planes that they made during the Industrial Revolution. It came out shortly after the Civil War, like in the 1880s. And they still make those today, and they're brand new. And the shape looks pretty much the same. They may make a few little changes to make it more comfortable, you know, make the cutters a little bit better, but the principle is still the same.
How do you like working with the old tools, Jim? Is it kind of close to home for you? I know you do a lot of woodworking, and of course certainly use power saws and different things like that, and planes and that, but you feel comfortable, I think. You and Don both feel comfortable working with the hand tools.
There are times when a hand tool does a quicker job, and if nothing else, it's quieter, not as dusty. Yeah, I made some platters for the ladies in the house to take the pans, because when they're cooking, halfway through in the oven, they have to take that out and churn it. Well, they were always reaching in with hot pads, so I made them a little pizza tray thing, you know, they could slide in there, pull it out. I was going to use a belt sander to sand it down to get the shape down and everything, and I eventually found out it was quicker using a hand plane.
Really?
And planed it off, finished it off sanding, and it was done. I was done much quicker and quieter.
Yeah, and I think I've heard that from you a couple, 2-3 times, that sometimes even a hand saw on just a small piece of wood, or maybe a little more intricate piece of wood, is probably easier by doing it by hand.
Right. We even have, we have molding planes out there, and we have a tongue and groove molding plane set. So if you do woodworking now and you use a router to make your tongue and groove boards, you have to get your router set up. You got to get the blade adjusted just right, so it takes a long time. Back then they just used their hand plane. The plane was the same all the time. It didn't matter. It has the built-in fence, the built-in depth thing, so they could put their tongue and groove on it. Oh, 2 weeks later, a year later, 10 years later, they can take another board, go through there, and it'll butt right up there and match perfectly, you know. Versus saves a lot of time.
Yeah,
so
sometimes in our modern day and age with labor-saving things, not necessarily saving any labor.
Right, because there's a lot of setup time and everything. You know, it depends on if you're making just a little bit. It's probably quicker to do it by hand, you know, than it is to do it by machine.
Yeah, and one thing we should mention also now for folks, when you come out, we'd have a new parking lot.
Oh, yes.
You go right up the hill. It's just east of the school, directly across from the school. We got a nice new area that we kind of cleared out. It was kind of red pine forest in there. And we cleared out an area, I think it's like 100 by 220 or something like that, and it's used generally for people that are there all day, like Jim or I, if we're interpreting all day, or if we've got participants like at the Point Bass Pioneer Festival that came in with trailers, because a lot of these people carry a lot of merchandise between their tents and their equipment and everything, and especially Glenn with his 26 or whatever foot boat, his canoe. We have a place for them to park. We've noticed in previous years that sometimes the parking lot got almost half full before there was any public there, and we just want to deter people. Sometimes when people drive down, they kind of scope the parking lot, and if it looks like it's going to be full, then they might not even stop and turn around and leave.
Right.
So this will alleviate a lot of that. And I noticed the parking lot a couple times. It looked pretty full. I didn't check it closely. There might have been a few spots, but it was never overcrowded or people looking for a spot that they couldn't find. So
yeah, and I think this new big parking lot, especially for the vendors with the trailers and everything, was easier for them to maneuver around than it was in our old parking lot.
They had a lot of space. They didn't have to worry about close quarters. So I think it worked out good. So overall, I think the festival went very well, and I'd like to thank you folks in the public that have attended. And if you haven't attended, it's a great event that you can spend all day there. You know, we got food and beverages and that sort of thing, ice cream samples, certainly. So it's a great time to come and spend some time, and very economical. It was $5 for adults, $2 for students, and I didn't hear, but we were promoting also family memberships at $25, where you could come and save $70-some in a year's worth of time.
Yeah, I think you save about $75 if you buy a family and attend all the events.
All right.
So.
And one thing we're going to just touch on lightly is the Cranberry Blossom Festival is on starts on, I think, about the 14th or 15th of June and goes through Sunday, June 17th. Now, Historic Point Boss will be part of the parade, and that's from 12 to 2, and it runs basically from 11th Street on the east side of Wisconsin Rapids to the former mall site of J.C. Penney. So that will go right down Grand Avenue, East Grand, and then West Grand Avenue, and we'll be part of that. We'll have a float and some people handing out some of our schedules for the rest of the year. So we invite you to say hi when we go by, and we hope to see you there at the Cranberry Blossom Festival Parade. So I think that's a nice event to promote and to encourage people to attend within our community and the whole events that they have leading up to it. They've got about 20, 30 events that are happening all these different days at different sites, within Wisconsin Rapids and within our greater community. And then we're just going to touch a little bit on, because we don't know much about, but we can talk about, is our special Wakely Whodunit. Now, just if you don't know what a whodunit is, it's kind of like a game of Clue, but we got live participants there. We got characters, usually 12, 15, 17 characters, and you get a scorecard and you get a little bibliography of what's a little background of the people, and then you go around and you got a basic plot, and then you try to find out who the murderer is or who the thief was. This year's was written by Luke J. Conkle. He's a former resident of Wisconsin Rapids. He lives in the Green Bay area in Denmark, Wisconsin, and a young writer that's enjoyed it. Rhonda Whetstone wrote the original one, and then Luke has kind of taken over after the first couple years that Rhonda did, and has done a nice job, and he's kind of intersected them so they kind of roll off of each other, so there's a following.
Almost like a series going here.
A series.
Yeah.
And Luke does a great job, and we invite you out if you like this sort of thing. It's a lot of fun for us participants. Jim and I have both been in it over the years. Diane, who's behind the camera, has been in it. And we portray different characters of the Wakely era, usually a Robert Wakely, a Mary Wakely, the sheriff, and you got the blacksmith, and you got the sawyer, and you've got the iceman, and the teacher, the schoolmarm is there, and some Native American activity within this, and sometimes there's Civil War soldiers. But if you like this sort of activity where you like to solve a puzzle, this is your baby. This is what you're going to enjoy. And so that'll be on July 28th, which is a Saturday, and it's from 2 to 5 p.m. So the adults are $5, students are $2, and you get, like I say, you sign up, you get your bibliography and a little synopsis of the event, and then you go out and you mark off, and then we have a big ballot box where you stick your ballot in of who you thought did it. Now, it can be, let you know, it could be multiple characters. Yeah. Sometimes they have a couple people working together, unbeknownst to maybe most people, that these people got together and are trying to get rid of somebody or steal something. So for those that enjoyed it, last year we had people from Marshfield, we had some people from Virginia. Now, folks, they didn't come for Virginia to see the Wakely's whodunit. They just happened to be in the area, and they thought
passing through.
they'd like to take it in. Like any of us traveling, we see something's interesting, we take it in. We're not necessarily from the area, nor did we travel that far for it. But it'll be called Independence Day on July 28th at the site, 2 to 5 p.m. We'll have this year. Last year had requests for some cold water and some soda, and we'll have some of that available, because I know last year was I think about 90 degrees and it got kind of hot for people, and so we'll have some beverages there so you can stay right there and get something to refresh yourself. You don't necessarily have to worry about bringing something with you. Jim and I have both been in it a number of times over the years, and it's kind of interesting. Now we're going to be talking from the perspective of one of the interpreters or actors in it, and it is kind of unscripted acting. We've got a little bibliography of ourselves and one of everybody else that's a character there, but we don't know all the machinations, and nobody knows the outcome except Luke himself.
Right. So, you know, if you're coming and you think, well, maybe we can trip up one of the portrayers into giving us a real good clue who the person is, we don't even know who it is. So we're also making guesses, and you know, we're just taking a shot in the dark too.
And I don't know about you, but they probably have done to you like me. They've asked you, who do you think it is, you know, or something like that. And of course, we've got our own opinions. They're not necessarily right. We aren't trying to mislead you, but it's just what we maybe think it is.
Yeah, that's just our personal opinion, you know.
And what positions have you played, Jim? Sawyer or
I was I was a Sawyer once, and I was also in the cabin. I was Pierre was gone, and I was taking care of the cabin, and I was renting it out.
Yeah, well, and he was probably in prison because at one time he got convicted of something that he was guilty.
I wasn't sure why he wasn't there, but I know that he just wasn't there. So
it's kind of shady character, but it's kind of nice where we can kind of float around the site a little bit, and not necessarily where we're normally used to. But it works pretty good because you're playing this character in this time set, and you don't necessarily have to know all this knowledge about, say, the cabin,
right?
Because they're going to be there trying to pump you for information leading up to what they can consider who is the villain or who villains.
Yeah, because you know Diane was a nurse one time, so you got to have, you know, you only need to know just a little bit about nursing, you know, the medical thing and everything, you know. So and you just develop a little thing as it's going on, and as more people came in and asked different questions, you realized that you could go different things could come up and, you know, do something different.
I noticed that too. I got the same feedback you did from people that I didn't consider that, and all of a sudden I could add that to my presentation.
Your next group that came through, you know, that was something to play off of. You know?
And what's nice about it, folks, is we can't mislead you. All we can do is tell you the information, or if you want us to guess on something, we'll guess on something, but we're not going to mislead you. We tell you within the parameter of our story and how we relate to other people. That's all we can tell you. So, and out of that information, I think you'll enjoy it. If you like any kind of a mystery sort of thing, this is right up your alley, and I think you'll enjoy it. So that's July 28th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Wakely site, just down County Trunk Z off on Wakely Road. We'll have plenty of signage up, especially on the corner of 73 and Highway Z, and you'll be able to find us really easy. And so I haven't changed the signs. I think tomorrow or Thursday I'll change the signs over to Who Done It, and so you'll start to see those signs for the next month and availability of it. So, and
even though the road, if the sign says the road is closed, that's 6 miles down, so we're still open.
We're open to the site. Basically, Wood County did work on it a couple years ago, and then they did it down 6 miles, and now they're continuing on doing the rest of the work on Z. And we had it that one year was on our section of it, but luckily they were past us just before the festival.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that worked out really nice.
Yeah, I don't know if they did it in conjunction with that or not, but the crew worked really hard on that. So I'd like to thank Jim for being with me.
It was nice being here.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and get you out from behind the camera over at this side. So
yeah, I like it on the other side of the camera, I think, a little bit better.
Well, we've had you before, the Sugar Bush.
Did some Sugar Bush stuff,
a couple years ago we had you on talking about it because he does some of his own Sugar Bush.
Yeah, because Diane was on there.
And make sure that stay tuned for some of the cooking show, and we got our cooking class coming up in September. It's 22nd.
And it's an all-day thing.
It's a Saturday this year. Before it was like 4 Tuesdays. Now it's one Saturday from like 9 to 3, 9 to 4. So if you want to sign up, check our website. That's the best place to sign up. Sign up early. Very inexpensive. I believe it's still $15.
And we already have 2 people that have already signed up.
Yeah.
So that's a neat thing. They just sent us an email 2 days ago.
Yeah, because I think Tom was talking to some people that were pretty serious in the cabin and sounded like they were going to sign up. So Sign up early is better. It does have a limit. You know, you get up around 12 or so, and that's about all you can handle because we got work, you know, with the different stoves and the fireplaces on the site. But it'll be a great time, and it's nice this time because it's one day, September 22nd, basically from about 9 to 4, and it's all encompassed in one day. So you don't have to worry about who of us has 4 Tuesdays in a row. I mean,
right.
We've had that problem in the past, so I think it's a great idea to go to one time like that. So hope to see you there, and thanks for listening.
And I think we may even have some little videos or some pictures about our Pioneer Fest that just came through.
We'll keep on watching, folks.
And so stay tuned.
Yes.
They needed to wash the clothes. So do you know what the inside of your washing machine looks like at home? You know, it's got this little thing here like this. It's like these blades are longer. This is what our new washing machines is made off of. They designed this way back in the 1800s, and this is called a washing machine. So they have this tub here, and this is copper. They put this copper tub onto a wash stove, very similar to the one out here that she's using. They put their soap in, and they had to make their own soap because there's no Walmart. So they had to make it. They put that in there, and they go like this. They'd be the agitator to their clothes. And when they're done, then they'd have to dump out this water, they'd have another tub, and they would rinse it in the same manner. So isn't that fun? Yeah. There. And this stove, you're going to watch her build a fire. You know at home when your moms want to cook something, they go to their stove and they just turn the knob and it gets hot right away? Way back in the 1800s, they had to go out and chop the wood. They had to cut down the trees. They had to chop the wood.
Getting it.
Okay. And then they would have to make their own fire. So they would cook over the open fire. That sound good? Yeah, yeah. So she's going to start up our stove because we have to eat dinner. So in order to eat, you have to have your stove ready.
I don't know which way the thing has to go to do this.
I think we're good. She's done it.
When its handle is up and down, this shaped thing in the center is generally up and down.
Correct.
So the smoke can go out easier.
Correct. It causes a draw. And then after you get your fire going, then you're going to close this up just a little bit so the heat stays here.
Remember, I've never gotten to do this before.
That's
you and
right.
Kathy never let me.
That's right. She's never started this fire here. Now wait now. Okay.
So you've got wood shavings there.
We do, and if you want to get some of your little sticks, about 5 little sticks.
Is that to get your draw started?
It is.
Okay.
You have to heat the chimney in order to get that draw to start.
Preheating.
Yes.
So the warm air rises.
Correct.
She learned this the hard way.
I did.
By smoking the place out?
I did.
That's what happens if you don't preheat. Yeah.
That is.
They don't have the lights, so they have those candles on the wall.
Okay, if you watch her now, see it's going to start. And she's starting the little tiny shavings first. And see how the flame is going to the right up the chimney. See that flame is going right up there. And what that's doing is heating up the chimney now. So the cold air will come and it'll hit this and it'll go right up the chimney because it's hot.
You tell me when I have to put the cover back on.
No.
If I just leave it?
Yeah. It'll just burn itself out. Yeah, it'll just burn itself out. There you go. And what she's doing inside here is she's starting all the little shavings on fire first. And she's got some of these baby sticks on top of the shavings. Yes. And then when the baby sticks start on fire, then it starts the big logs on fire. And you want to have dry wood.
Would they use like flint back then? Or?
Yeah. And we've been taught, like, you know, we teach a fall cooking class, or we took cooking class, and they do teach us.
Where is your fall cooking class at?
out here on site.
It's out here on site at Point Bass on Wakely Road, south of Nakusa.
Absolutely. It'll be in September this year.
Okay.
And it'll be a one-day class. Normally what we tried is we had evening classes from 5 until 8 for 4 weeks in a row. And this year's our first year we're going to try and have a one-day cooking class. It'll be Saturday. And it'll start approximately 8 o'clock in the morning, and you'll stay out here until about 5:30. And we will teach you all different kinds of cooking.
Where can this be found at?
That can be found on our website, which is historicpointbasse.com, and you go under events, and under events you'll see the cooking class.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm out of here, Ethan.
So you're blowing through a tube to get the fire going better. What would you?
A good bed of coals to make tea this afternoon.
Okay. What would you like to say about your display here?
I usually do Civil War, but right now I'm representative of 1850-1851 when the Wakeleys were established in their house. This particular park has a really wide range of time, from the fur traders to 1850, and so I'm more on that other end of the time frame that we have here out at Wakely.
Mid-1800s, that spectrum, primarily?
Yep. Yep. So,
and so what am I looking at? What all is in the tent here?
just my bed and dresser and my wash table and everything else that a lady would need when she comes to visit.
You're talking about personal things.
Yeah, I am. And I came to visit Mary Wakely because she is in the middle of this wilderness and she needs a touch of refinement and civility. And that's why I came to visit. And we're going to have tea this afternoon, like proper ladies should. That's what we're going to do today.
I had tea in the tea room, so I thought. Just me, I was the only person in there.
I think your potatoes are good. There's one more table behind Mrs. Witherspoon. I didn't see that.
Oh, no, there are 2 seats over here. And an extra cup.
Did this really help? Get the finger up.
I hope I don't need to remind you that if you do want cream in your tea, you're going to want to put that cream in
Rescue that
so it doesn't
Is that what that is?
I think it's fluid.
That's no big deal.
The lemon or the sugar cubes out there on the river. That's all they get. So you got to make do with what you have. But you know what? Somebody said the other day when we put that top off of that sugar cone, they said that they call that the hat. That's the hat of the sugar cone. And he said, well, I'll eat my hat. Was that ridiculously silly?
I've never heard.
Why, for shame. I did too.
Oh, I've forgotten. Mom, not just the way it used to be, sister.
No, it's not.
It never is.
We'll have to strain this one, sister. We're just going to have to. Don't you burn. Okay.
This is a chair candy maker. It's basically the part of the leg that sticks up through the seat that holds the leg in place. And this is a little different than the modern ones because it provides a square seat or a spot that actually holds the weight of the seat. And what I do is this will cut the tendon all the way down. Right now, I'm kind of experimenting with different techniques to make it work. To make it work now, I have to wobble the brace to connect the cutter. I'm trying to make it so I can just turn it flat, which you can see it does start to work. I'm getting it fairly close.
You can hear it digging in.
Yes.
It's biting.
And I'm making some progress. But
well, that's a primitive kind of vise. It's just a bench.
Yes, and it's got a screw on this end here.
Oh, that's how they did it.
You can see the screw underneath.
That's how they did it. An Acme screw, huh?
Yes. And you see, this
is very primitive. What year would this? Is this an authentic one? What year would this be?
This is, I believe, around 1870 some.
Okay.
But these go all the way back to Roman times.
Sure.
I mean, there is a Roman.
As soon as the Iron Age was.
Well, there is a Roman vise that basically uses a bench with dowels, and you basically it has positions of dowels, and you like if you would position something with three dowels, and then you put your wood in there, and then you'd wedge it in there.
Okay.
You know, so that's basically the really old
a wedge vise,
Roman vise. But you can even go back into the Greeks and find something similar to this.
Yeah.
But they really didn't refine it till probably 1700s, 1600s.
Okay.
And that was when it really started getting going.
Great. Well, I gotta take a little walk over here, and or I need to take a little walk over here. Excuse my English.
Wasn't a spoke shape.
Now I've seen the wide draw shavers before, but I haven't seen a little one like this.
So yeah, I'm just making a dowel that goes into an ankle loom right now. So you can see I started from this end was like that. So now it's down to almost to where I need to be. And so I'm down to the point where I'm using the draw shave, what a lot of people consider to be upside down. If you have it with the bevel side up, you take a slice, you cut out a lot of wood. If you turn it over, you can cut really fine stuff.
Oh, okay. I had one of those at one time, but I don't know where it is.
And you don't have to press down very hard on it. You're letting it, if you want real fine cuts, then you just let the weight of the tool do the cut.
Right, kind of like a chainsaw. You don't horse the chain, you just let the weight of the saw cut through the material.
That's the same thing, for a hand saw is the same thing.
Oh, yes.
You let the weight of the saw do the work and don't worry about forcing. You'll cut a straighter line.
So you seem to be taking deeper cuts over there, and they seem to be shallower cuts over here. This is more like...
This is the spoke shave here. So this is used more for really finishing.
So could this have been like a spoke for a wagon wheel at one time?
You could get that into be a spoke for a wagon wheel.
Okay.
Right now the blade is adjustable, so you can take it
just like a plane then.
Right. It's basically a hand plane. So it's set real thin now. If you see where he's taking off there, you see how shiny it is and everything?
Yes, it's very shiny.
It's very smooth because he's taking off so little. You know, so it's a little more work, but you end up with a really nice smooth finish.
Great. Well, thank you.
All we're doing now is just flattening out a board here so that we can come along and...
So that's a block plane there.
That's just the old... Well, it's not a block plane. It's a block plane is a really small plane.
Oh, okay. What are the bigger ones called?
There's a jack plane. What's the other one, Don? There's a jack plane.
Plow plane.
Plow.
Rabbit plane. This is an example of a rabbit plane where you basically have a shaft going. This is a block plane. You can see that the angle of the blade is really low. It's more of a modern.
Oh, it's a shallow cut.
It's a shallow cut versus the other ones have a steeper cut. Steeper angle.
This is for finer grain.
Yeah, for finer grain, and it depends on if the wood is real hard or real soft wood, as to how much you want to take off and what blade you're going to use, maybe, or the setting.
No, it's
more what you want to do versus the wood.
Oh, okay.
So when you make like a table and you get your boards all glued together, you want to start out with a nice long plane because it'll take down all the high spots. As it gets flatter, you can get the shorter planes. And when you get ready to put an edge on the table, so you would have a molding plane, and that just goes across the edge.
So you're, okay, are you taking out a groove?
And it's taking out a groove, and it also...
Is that popple or what is that?
This rounds over here, and it has a groove in there.
Okay, I see. You're actually molding.
You're actually molding.
You're molding. Okay.
You can come back with on this side with a different molding plane.
Right, right.
And get a different shape, and you end up with a different shape completely.
So you could be doing crown molding or anything.
You can do any of it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in order to make crown moldings, you would start out with a round, and you go through there. So all these, if you look at this plane, the edge of it is made up using a round and a flat.
Yes.
So as long as you have a flat, a round, and a hollow molding plane, you can make the other ones. Then you just make have your blacksmith make your chisel to match your shape.
Great. Well, thank you very much for this.
And they come in all different kinds of sizes. So this is a tongue and groove one.
Right.
You know, so you make if you make your tongue and groove with a hand plane like this, 5 years from now you can make the same one. You don't have, there's no adjustment because you have your fence yet and you have your depth.
Great.
So they match out years later.
Great. Well, thank you for this demonstration.
No, you're welcome.
Can you do that one more time? Either you have a toothache or you're imitating a cow.
Anyway, it's kind of like for fog and stuff like this, and just. And I can never get the right sound. There was one time where I did get a sound that would travel a long way, but it's just like blowing a trumpet or anything like that.
And what's that instrument called?
Just the horn, really. I don't know if they have any. You know.
Where was this one made? Where were they made? What country are they from?
You got me there.
And you heard it here at Wakely.
At Wakely here, we know what we know, and we don't know a lot.
All right. You really want that on Facebook.
Yeah.
If you really want some good humor, come on over to Wakely's Pioneer Fest at Point Bass, south of Nakusa, Wisconsin.
A lot of things that still need some information on.
All right. Thank you.